Shalom, brothers and sisters. It's Amanda, and I am coming back with the last word that I'm going to be doing on the podcast. I know in my previous episode, where I did the last part of the marriage bed series, I had said it would be sometime next week, and I have changed my plans. So next week's word was going to be on marriage. I was going to kind of close with that. And I decided, you know what, it's going to be super repetitive. It's things that I've talked about a lot throughout this podcast ministry, over 100 episodes. So I'm actually going to do something a little bit different. It's still going to be a word about marriage and family, but I'm going to add something different that I haven't really spoken about before. I've mentioned it, but I've never really made it like the topic to discuss. So, what a beautiful day it's been. It's been a wonderful Sabbath, a restful one. Had time with Yah and with family, and just was really reflecting on a lot of everything that's going on right now in my life. And watched some friends as well from our fellowship do a video as well where they were discussing certain things, and it just really inspired me to come on and do this word. So that's what I'm going to do today. And it's going to be the last one. And I know some of you have been following are like, yeah, that's what you said on the 100th episode, and you ended up doing more. I know. Again, this podcast has been Holy Spirit led. It's been Ruach led. And even though I feel that way and I say, okay, this is going to be it, and I try to pray about everything beforehand, but sometimes he just has other ideas and I have to be obedient to that. So, but I know that it's coming to a close. You know, I'm sure that most of you by now have heard my update episode and just kind of what I interwoven in my last episodes about just some personal things going on, some changes and transitions going on right now in my life. Y'all, Yah is really taking me through the fire right now. Like, it's been tough, but he has been merciful and he has shown his goodness over and over. You know, and it's just a change of life where, you know, it's whatever that he is calling us to do next, you know, whether that's to continue to reside here in Colorado or move to Missouri and, you know, continue there and do whatever it is that he's, you know, calling us to do. I want to be obedient to that, because for me, the most important thing is Yahuwah, and then my family and friends and, you know, ministry and so on and so forth. So anyways, today what I want to go ahead and talk about for this last word is I want to talk about idolatry. Idolatry is a huge thing, and it is definitely in the Torah, and as a matter of fact, is a part of the 10 Commandments. It's actually the first 2 or 3. I think it's the first 2. And it is the basis of like all the other laws that you see within the Torah. And for those of you who don't know, I am a Torah follower. I observe the Torah and I keep the commandments to the best of my ability. The only thing that we don't do is sacrifice the animals or anything that has to do with the Levites or the priesthood. Other than that, I follow everything else. So when it comes to the 10 Commandments, that's like the basis of everything else. So it's definitely something that I always try to make sure I am keeping to the best of my ability. So when I first became a believer and became a Christian, you know, I noticed that when I started to study these 10 Commandments, because I didn't grow up going to church or anything like that. So when I first became a believer, all of this was brand new to me. And when I started studying the 10 Commandments, I was like, oh my goodness, I have broken every single commandment except for murdering. I have not murdered anybody, you know what I mean? And I never would. But I realized that I had broken every commandment, you know. I have my Bible here in front of me. You know, like I look at the first commandment, you know. So I'm just going to read the scripture real quick, and then I'll kind of go through it, and then I'll get to the whole point of this episode. But this is going to be called, you know, is marriage and family an idol? Can it become an idol? And I want to talk about that. But first, let me go ahead and read from Exodus chapter 20, and I'm going to start at verse 1 and go all the way down to verse 17. These are the 10 Commandments that Elohim, or Yahuwah, gave to Moses. And Elohim spoke all these words, saying, I am Yahuwah your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You have no other mighty ones against my face. You do not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of that which is in the heavens above, or which is in the earth beneath, or which is in the waters under the earth. You do not bow down to them nor serve them, for I, Yahweh your Elohim, am a jealous El, visiting the crookedness of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing loving commitment to thousands to those who love me and guard my commands. You do not bring the name of Yahweh your Elohim to naught, for Yahweh does not leave the one unpunished who brings his name to naught. Remember the Sabbath day to set it apart. 6 days you labor, and you shall do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of Yahweh your Elohim. You do not do any work, you or your son or your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your sojourner who is within your gates. For in 6 days Yahweh made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart. Respect your father and your mother, so that your days are prolonged upon the soil which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you. You do not murder, you do not commit adultery, you do not steal, you do not you do not bear false witness against your neighbor. And then the last one is, you do not covet your neighbor's house, you do not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, nor his ox, nor his donkey, or whatever belongs to your neighbor. So those are the 10 commandments. And I'm reading from the ISR version of the Bible, so that might sound a little bit different to some of you. But those are the 10 commandments. And when I look at these, I'm like, I have broken every single one of these, whether it was when I was a lot younger, or, recently, or, recently like as in a few years ago or something like that. Because even so, like, I used to try to justify it because I was like, well, I had no clue. I grew up not knowing anything about God, church, Jesus, the Bible. I knew nothing. Prayer, I grew up not knowing anything until I became an adult, and, Yah came for me, praise Yah, and brought me to him through a friend of the family, and that's how I finally gave my life to Yah and became a believer. I became, born again, and I became a Christian. So I always look at my life in two different ways, before I became a believer and then after. So before I became a believer, I had no clue. I didn't go to church, I didn't read a Bible, I didn't know anything. So, but I still repented, I still repented for, all the sins that I committed, even though I had no clue. After I became a believer and became a Christian, I repented a lot, because I'm like, okay, I was keeping the Sabbath day wrong. It's not Sunday, it's Saturday, and there for a while I was, working and doing things on the Sabbath. I wasn't setting it apart. I wasn't, following what the scriptures say. Respect your mother and father. I've always respected my parents, but because of my broken relationship with the both of them, just long story short, my parents are very difficult to deal with. I love them with everything, but when you have toxic parents and narcissistic parents, your relationship at some point becomes fractured and broken. So it was very hard for me to honor my parents. So I was having to learn how to honor my parents from a distance so that I wasn't breaking this commandment. You do not murder. Of course, I've never done anything like that. You do not commit adultery. Unfortunately, I have done that, again, and this was all before I became a believer, but, I had gone into a counterfeit relationship. I had a child by this person. And on top of that, I ended up committing adultery in another way by becoming involved with someone who was dishonest with me and didn't let me know that they were actually married legally. And I was involved with that person for a short period of time. So I've done that. Stealing as a kid, I think I probably stole candy from a store or something like that. You do not bear false witness against your neighbor. I've never done anything like that, but I have told white lies in my life. I have done that when I was younger and things like that. So the point that I'm trying to get to is that I've probably broken all of the commandments except for not murdering anybody. I've never taken anybody's life, and I never will. But where it says, do not have any idols, do not have any other gods, do not have anybody before me. I want to talk about idolatry, because this is a huge, huge thing that many people they don't realize how easy it is to have idols. And basically, idolatry, other than what it says there in the commandments of actually worshiping other gods or false gods or pagan gods, which is a huge reason of why I don't keep the holidays, because they're rooted in paganism. But another definition of idolatry, and we see this so much in our society today, is basically putting anything before Yahuwah to where it has more importance. It has your full attention. It's what you're more focused on than your relationship with Yahuwah. Because the thing is, He created us to fellowship with Him, right? And I've always talked about that foundation that we should build on should be Yah and His Word, right? Nothing else. And we also have to remember that what defines us is who we are in Him and not anything else. And I'll break those down in just a minute. But the sad thing is that especially today, there are so many things that are taking the place of Yahuwah in all of our lives. And this is where idolatry comes in. Anything that we hold in high regard, higher than Yahuwah, becomes an idol. And believe it or not, marriage and family can become an idol. It absolutely can become an idol. I tell you, when Yah brought to me this ministry, I really wasn't sure at first, because, see, I was someone that throughout my life, getting married and having a family was a huge desire of mine. I mean, from the time I was a little girl, and most little girls are like that, but then nowadays, many of these young girls grow out of that and they become career-oriented or focused. And then getting married and having a family kind of goes on the back burner for most. But me, I never grew out of that. I never wanted a career. I never wanted to be outside the home. I wanted to be a homemaker. I wanted to be a wife, and I wanted to be a mother. Those were always my desires. And when I became a believer and, started to learn more about Yahuwah and His Word, I remember praying and asking Yah to get rid of anything in my heart that were desires that were not aligned with what He had for me. Because I didn't want to sit around waiting for something or hope or pray for something that wasn't going to happen because it wasn't Yah's will for my life. Because I did choose Yah's will for my life, not my own. I was like, I want what you have for me. I don't want what I want or what somebody else says I should have. I want what you want. And I remember praying that because so much time would go by and none of those things happened. I wasn't getting married. I wasn't having any more children. I wasn't, and these were my desires. Instead, I was, a single mom having to work my butt off. And then on top of that, I was going to school as well. And I was by myself trying to raise my son. Everything was totally not how I had imagined my life to be at a certain point, because we know that in society, everybody has goals. Like, by this age, I want to be able to do this. By this age, I want to be married. By this age, I want to have kids. By this age, I want to buy this house. By this age, and so on and so forth. And the thing is that what we're not realizing is a lot of times what we want is not necessarily what Yah has for us, or maybe not in that timing. We need to allow Him to be sovereign. So the truth of the matter was that throughout all this time, I was idolizing getting married. I was idolizing wanting to have children. I was idolizing wanting to be a homemaker. And even though there came a time where I knew that Yah had put these desires in my heart for a reason. I knew He was calling me to these things, but I was so focused on it that I wasn't focused on, growing my relationship with Him, or even learning and finding out who I am in Him. Because the truth of the matter is that when it comes to who we are, none of that stuff defines us. None of that stuff gives us worth, and it took me a long time to understand that, because I used to think, if I never get married, who am I? If I'm not a wife, who am I? If I'm not a mother, who am I? I used to look to these things to define me. Like, I was like, I want to be somebody's wife. I want to be somebody's mother, which I am. I have my, my son. But I wanted more, and then when Yah opened my heart to ministry, I was really focused on that too. So anything can become an idol. Our marriage can become an idol. Our children can become an idol. Our ministries can become an idol. Our callings can become an idol if we put them above Yah. Yes, they're callings and it's our purpose, and we are to, follow in that. But sometimes if we go too overboard and we're too focused on that, and we're neglecting time with Yahuwah, time in the Word, time in prayer, then these things have now become idols. So for those of you that are single, constantly thinking about, when am I going to get married? Who am I going to marry? And when's this going to happen? Why hasn't it happened yet? It becomes an idol. When you start thinking about children, wanting to have children, all these kinds of things, it becomes an idol. There's nothing wrong with wanting these things because they're Yah's gift to us, But when we're too much on it, when we're too worried about it and too preoccupied with it, it becomes an idol. It absolutely becomes an idol. And I used to think that what defined me was being a wife. What defined me was being a mother. I used to think that that was my worth, that was the only worth I had, especially with the past that I had gone through, being rejected all the time, not being loved and things like that. I had gone through so much hurt and pain. And Yahweh brought me through a process of healing, but I still used to think that those were the things that defined me and measured my worth. And I didn't realize that my identity and my worth is found in Him. And that's what I needed to realize. And that all this time of Him working on me was to get me to that point, to understand that. And even now, even to this day, even though He's brought me to such an incredible place right now, but there's still a lot of testing. There's still a lot of testing and pruning of my faith. And, how am I prioritizing things? Am I holding Him first, or am I holding my marriage first, or my parenting first, or my ministry? And it's another reason why, speaking of ministry, why I decided to, take a break from the podcast, maybe even permanently, because I didn't want this ministry to become an idol. It was incredible how Yahweh gave me so much information through His Word and through prayer time and just personal time with Him to prepare me for my own marriage, but to share with others. He gave me so much knowledge that I have done 100+ episodes, and that has been incredible and such a blessing to take part in. But I don't want it to become an idol. I don't want my ministry to take place over, my marriage, over my children, or over Yahweh, because there's an order, there's a design that Yah created. And it's Him first, then His Son, right? And the Holy Spirit, and then husband, wife, children, friends, family, ministry, and so on and so forth, right? There's an order. And anytime that order is out of order, right? The design is just completely backwards. That's when our life gets really chaotic and just really, it's what we see in the world, right? And so that's something that I've always been conscious of, okay, Yahweh gave me an opportunity to be in ministry. Okay, praise Yah. But I don't want to overdo it to the point to where now I'm holding it above Him. Okay, Yah's blessed me with a marriage from Him. Okay, praise Yah. But I don't want to take that marriage and put it above Him. Okay, Yahweh's blessed me with another child, gonna have another baby. Okay, praise Yah. But let me not put that pregnancy above Him. You know what I mean? Just speaking in general. And oftentimes many of us do this. And listen, it's natural and normal to be excited about getting married and finally being a spouse, having a baby, having a ministry, being a part of a fellowship, being able to, whatever it is that Yah's called you to. It is perfectly normal and natural to be excited about these things and to love these things because they are from Him. They're gifts from Him, right? Scripture says so. We know that these things are from Him, but we can even take those things and we can end up putting it above Yahweh. And I've realized, for me personally, I've done that. I've done that a lot. And I've had to repent so many times for that. I literally would cry and I'd be like, Yah, please forgive me for taking the things that You meant for good, things that are a gift and a blessing from You, and I've taken them and I've sinned with them. It's one of the worst feelings I've ever had. I'm in a season of my life where I'm telling you, He's taken me through the fire. He's taken me through the fire. There's a lot going on right now. Definitely a huge test of faith going on right now. I'm literally at the point where Yah is going, okay, do you trust me fully? And you're going to step into what I have for you fully? Or are you still in the world? Are you still going to worry? Are you still going to fear? Are you still going to go for the worldly comforts? So many people look at these things to define them, being a spouse, being a parent, their career, their education. I tell you what, one of the worst things, no, not worse, one of the things that I do regret though, and I know we shouldn't have any regrets, but the reason why I do is because it was something I never prayed and asked Yah if it was something He wanted me to do, and that was my education. That was going to college. I went to college for 6 years. I have I think $50,000, if not close to $60,000 in student loans. And I haven't really done anything with what I earned. On top of that, I didn't even earn what I originally had intended to earn. And I just thought, wow, not only am I not doing what I was supposed to do, because obviously that wasn't what Yah wanted me to do, but I am in debt with student loans, which we know that debt is a sin and you become a slave to the lender. And that's the only debt I have, praise Yah, but it's still a pretty big one. But yeah, I mean, I felt like it was a huge waste of time, and I felt like the biggest thing was that I didn't pray and ask Yah if that's what he wanted me to do. And now this is what I have. Now this is what I'm facing. You know what I mean? And that's why I've always encouraged in a lot of my episodes to always go to Yah in prayer about everything. Everything, your marriage, your parenting, you know, your ministry, or whatever purpose that you and your spouse are called to, or, you know, whatever that it may be. But so many people, myself included, look at these things to define us and to measure our worth. And it's not. You know, I used to cry, you know, years ago, because I was like, am I ever going to get married? You know, that was like my biggest thing. Am I going to get married? Am I going to be somebody's wife? That was a huge thing to me, because I felt that that was what would define me. Before I even had my son, I knew I wanted to have children. And when I had him, I was like, okay, praise Yah, I'm a mom. You know, but that didn't define who I am. I'm a mom, and I enjoy, a lot of, it's hard work. I mean, like anything else, but it doesn't define me. It changed my life in a way, but in another sense it didn't, like I thought it would. In other words, it didn't fulfill that empty void that I have. A lot of people look to getting married, to having children, to having a career, to fill a void. I have seen women where when they have a void that's empty, they think that being in a relationship, being with a man is going to fill that. A man loving them is going to fill that, when really it's unfair, because we're putting unrealistic expectations on these men or on these husbands, right? I've seen where women, and I know because I was this woman, they thought having babies would give them a sense of purpose and identity. And, you know, yes, you love being a parent, you love being a mom, you love these children with everything you have, but it didn't fill that void for them. It didn't fill the void. I see men all the time that walk around with empty, voids as well. And the way that they try to fill it is through careers and how much money they make and what they can buy with that money. Men, careers don't define you. How much money you make does not define you. Women, you becoming a wife or not does not define you. You becoming a mother or not does not define you. Yes, these are all things that are blessings from Yah, but it's not what defines us and gives us our sense of worth. The only thing that can fill that void is Yahuwah himself. And I had to come to that realization, and it was a harsh reality for me, because I was like, okay, I've been going at this all wrong, because I had seasons of my life where I was so alone, and not just because I wasn't married or anything like that or whatever, but because I also had issues with my family, whoever that I did have in my life. I was so alone. And I realized that Yah took those things to help me understand that I needed him. And, it's still something I work on. It's not something that's been perfected, and, it's still something I work on a daily basis. Because I do still have that love and desire on being a wife and being a mother and being in ministry and serving others and so on. I know Yah's put those in my heart. Praise Yah, and he's prepared me for it. And he's gotten me to that point. Praise Yah. But I realized that he is the most important, and I need him every step of the way. I need him to be my covering, I need him to be my foundation, and I need him to be everything in between. Because my worth and my value and my identity is in him and him alone. Nothing else. Yes, again, being a wife is incredible. Being a mother is incredible. Being able to, I was going to say conduct, but to be able to lead a ministry and produce a ministry is incredible. But it's not what defines me, So going back to the point of this topic, can marriage and family become an idol? Yes. It's a calling. It's a role, right? If you are called to marriage, if you are called to being a wife and a mother, these are callings. If you're called to be a husband and a father, these are callings. If you as the man are called to work outside the home and build a career, it's a calling, right? As long as you're following you're not choosing. You're allowing Yah to lead you and guide you to what that is. But again, it doesn't define us, right? And we need to remember that we need to have Yahuwah as our priority. That needs to be number one, always. And that's Yah's natural design and order for the family and home. I've talked about that many a times. I've had some people ask me, going back to idolatry, I've had family ask me, friends ask me, and some of you on here on the podcast, you've asked me via email, are you going to get Facebook back? Are you going to be back on Facebook? And my answer is no. And the only reason why I haven't deleted my account is just in case that Yah at some point down the road does call me to reactivate, maybe for the purpose of ministry. But I know that Yah has been calling me away from social media for some time, and I want to keep it that way. I'm not on YouTube. I don't have a channel on YouTube, but I do use it for the purpose of fellowship and praise and worship. Outside of that, I don't have social media. I had Facebook. I actually opened my Facebook account. I actually didn't have it for a few years. And then in May of 2020, I reopened my Facebook page for the purpose of ministry. And that was where I kind of got started with the knowledge that Yah had given me in regards to marriage and stuff. And then I think about a year after that, Yah brought me to the podcast platform. And I was like, okay, I thought maybe it was going to be YouTube like I've seen so many others do. But again, I've explained in the past, I've seen a side of YouTube that I did not want to fall into in any way. And the thing with social media too is it's a personal thing as well. I felt like I was idolizing it. I felt like I was becoming addicted to it. And I felt like I was comparing my life to other people that were on my Facebook, which kind of falls under the last, commandment in a sense, and I was like, this isn't good. This is not good. This is not what Yah wants, and I've expressed my opinion before on social media. I think that, definitely pray about it, but social media is definitely a huge tool that the enemy uses, and I just prefer not to be involved with it. But at the same time, I have met some incredible people through there. That's how I got connected with our fellowship. That's how I've made friends and, things like that through there. Now I've just told everybody, hey, if you want to contact me, here's my phone number, or here's my email address, or come on by if you're in Colorado, But yeah, social media for me, I just was like, this isn't for me anymore. So I've deactivated my page. I don't plan on reactivating it. And again, the only reason why I don't delete it, which I thought about doing, is just in case somewhere down the road, Yah has me reactivate it for whatever reason. But I don't plan on doing it. And again, because social media was becoming an idol, I was becoming addicted to it. To be honest with you, my family and I, we don't watch a lot of TV here. When we do, it's wholesome stuff. We're very careful, like even just streaming, we have Wi-Fi at home. We have a smart TV, and we download certain apps to view stuff. But even then, some of the ads and things that come on, I'm like, oh my goodness. And I'm really praying about possibly getting rid of TV, like not altogether, but definitely downsizing and cutting back that time. I definitely feel different things that Yah has been calling me out of, or calling us out of, and just kind of just coming out of the ways of the world and coming out of all these vices that the enemy uses to ensnare us or entrap us. So social media for me, again, it can be a positive thing when used for ministry and fellowship. But outside of that, and even then you've got to be careful. But outside of that, it's just not for me anymore. It really, really isn't. And again, I advised this recently. If you are married and you and your spouse would like to have social media, I just would advise that you have an account together and not separately or individually. Just because, again, it's something that the enemy can use to really just cause issues. I've seen a lot of issues happen in relationships because of social media. The other thing about social media I don't like is that people, they say and post and do whatever they want. They're showing people things that aren't even their reality. It's not real, or it's not true. I've seen people do things that is just really harmful to them. I've seen people, use it as a ground to just kind of show people this is how their life is, but in reality, it's really not that way. And that's just not a good thing. It's just not. And I've actually talked a lot about that before in some of my episodes in season 5. The dangers of social media, I think I gave some warnings that the Holy Spirit gave me to share, that some people were on social media, it had a lot to do with like their past and their ex and their family, where it looks one way on social media, but it's not. You know what I mean? It's very easy for people to put whatever they want and change their names, and it's just another opportunity for people to be dishonest and to allow the enemy to come in. And I don't want any part of that. I really, really don't. I don't want any part of that. I never felt comfortable to share anything personal on social media, to share any kind of pictures. And I have shared this. I'm like, if you're a couple, please pray about it. Don't post every picture of you guys together, where you've gone or what you're doing, or announce your pregnancy and things like. Just be very careful about what you're sharing on social media. In fact, I really honestly would advise and encourage to not do it. I really, really would at this point. Whoever Yah intends for you to share with your life, with whoever that is, he will bring into your life. And some people might say, well, that could be through social media. That's true, it could be. But if it's going to cost you anything, then more than likely no. You're better off meeting people the original way, face to face, and that's just what I recommend. But it does fall under idolatry, and I was experiencing that, and I was like, okay, I can't do that no more. It's not okay. So no social media for me. And again, if you want to connect, you can send me email. We can further connect through phone calls, video chats, things like that, if we're not close by to one another. If you're in Colorado, reach out. We can get together, grab some coffee together or lunch or something like that. I would love nothing more than to fellowship. I would love that. That's something I've been praying a lot about, and it just doesn't seem to be happening here, which is another reason why we've been praying about going to Missouri, so that we can be near our fellowship and near our friends that we've made, and just to be able to have that. So if you're in Colorado, please reach out to me. I would love to get together with you, brother or sister. I would just love the chance to be able to fellowship and just share time. So, but when it comes to idolatry, anything can become an idol. Food can become an idol, TV can become an idol. Wherever you're spending more time, or your attention goes fully to that thing or that person or that situation, it becomes an idol. I've heard a lot of people tell me, oh, I don't have time to pray, I don't have time to read the Bible, I don't have time to spend time with Yah, but yet they're doing all these other things. And I understand some people will say, well, that's how life is. A lot of us have to work in order to make a living and survive and all these kind of things. And it's like, well, it depends on the situation. Because remember, Yahweh is our ultimate source of provision. He's our provider. And if we're in work that we're not supposed to be in, or if we're doing stuff that He hasn't even called us to do, we really got to think about that. Not only are we not making time for Him, but on top of that, we're not making time for Him because we're busy with stuff that He hasn't even called us to do. For those of you that have been called into marriage and called to have a family, and you're trying to balance all of that, if He's given that to you, it's because He knows you can handle it. Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom of Elohim, and all these things shall be added unto you. So when you seek Him first, the things that are meant to be in your life follow. And when you have these things, He helps you to balance them out, as long as you always put Him first. If you have to set your alarm 30 minutes before everybody else in your house wakes up, and spend that time praying or reading the Word, or once you've put the kids to bed or whatever, and maybe your spouse is just kind of doing their own thing or whatever, or let them know, hey babe, or hey honey, I'm gonna spend some time with Yah for a little bit, would you like to join me? And if they don't want to join, then okay, I'm gonna spend at least 30 minutes if you don't mind. You got to carve out that time. Now, I'm not saying neglect what needs to be done in the home, or neglect your job, or neglect your children or your spouse. But however, prioritize the things make a schedule, follow a routine, I know people that they love to live, spontaneously, but I always feel that a schedule and routine helps out. It's a great tool when you have a busy life, so that you can carve out time for Yah, you can carve out time for your spouse, you can carve out time for your children and your ministry or whatever that Yahuwah has called you to. But if we don't put him first, if we're constantly putting him on the back burner, we're going to have unfulfillments, we're going to have issues, we're going to have situations. It's just, I'm just sharing with you all things that he's shown me throughout time and what I've learned. He's just really right now taking me through a season of a lot of reflection, a lot of understanding, and just a lot of pruning. And I see this a lot too with other brothers and sisters, where they just can't understand, they can't make sense why their life is the way it is right now. And one of the biggest things is that they have neglected to carve out time with Yahuwah. They have idolized and prioritized other things before him or above him. And that's the problem. Now with me doing a marriage ministry, I had to look at these things as well, because again, these were huge desires on my heart for years. And when I started doing this marriage ministry, I was like, last thing I want is for this to become an idol. But I want to help people. And I know that's why Yah had given me the insights and the information he had, not only to prepare me for my own marriage and family, but to help others understand marriage and family Yah's way, not the world's way, right? That was the biggest point of this ministry, was understanding that there's a difference. But I didn't want it to become an idol either. So I just always pray every day for Yah to help me balance out whatever he has brought into my life, whether it's for a season, whether it's permanent. I always ask him to just help me, because I've realized so much in these past few years, especially being able to be home these past few years. I've realized a lot of the mistakes I've made, and that a lot of it really comes down to the fact that I'm not prioritizing things the way I should. I'm holding things above or before Yahuwah. Not realizing and understanding that, like the scriptures say, if I put him first and hold him there in that position, because that's where he should be. He should be my foundation. He should be my covering. He should be my priority. Everything else will follow. And as long as I continue to pray and trust in him and have faith, he'll show me how to handle these things. He'll show me how to balance them out. He'll show me how to be a wife. He'll show me how to be a parent. He'll show me how to, maintain this ministry, and so on and so forth. How I can have fellowship, and have time with him, most importantly. I think many of us, we're just in this fast-paced society, we're in our flesh as well, and we don't trust. We're just like, nope, I'm going to do it this way because it seems easier, it seems faster. I'm going to take this job because I think it would really make me look good and it would define who I am. I'm going to marry this person even though I haven't asked you if this is the person, because I'm lonely and, I don't want to be alone no more. It's the mentality and the thought process that we all walk in, because we're in our flesh and we're in the society that we're in. And that's why it's so important to be set apart. When Yah calls us out, when he calls us to be set apart, we need to come out of the world. We need to come out of those ways. We need to put him first and watch him bring everything else after, like in order, in right order, in his timing. I used to try to find jobs that I thought would define me and help bring in an income, because I was a single parent for so many years, right? I used to think getting married to whoever, at that point, I was like, all right, next person that comes along that I fall in love with, that's the person, or being a mom and busying myself with mom things, that was going to take care of everything. No. The only thing that fills that void that so many of us walk around with is Yahuwah. I've seen so many men think that if they get a nice car, a fancy car, that's going to fill that void. If they can get as many women as they can to talk to them or to go out on dates with them, that defines who they are. If they could climb the, corporate ladder, so to speak, and have a really good career and have this, impressive education that, it's going to impress women, and it's also going to make them feel better about themselves, that's what defines them. None of that defines them. I remember back when I was praying for my husband, I didn't even know who he was yet. And, so many women I've talked to, so many sisters are like, they have this long list of qualities they are hoping will be in their future husband. And I was really saddened to see that a lot of these qualities they had written down was what kind of car he would drive, what kind of career he has. Listen, I understand the career to a point, because the man is the one that provides for the family, right? But again, you also have to look at it through the biblical perspective, that Yah is our ultimate provider, and that when we, walk by faith and when we trust in Him, it doesn't matter whether our husbands do full-time ministry or have a career, our families will be taken care of. But they used to write down these things that were so superficial and so just like, I'm like, does it really matter to you what kind of car your husband drives? Is that really going to tell you whether you love this man or not? Or what kind of, does he make 6 figures? Or is that really necessary, And I remember when I prayed for my husband, the only thing I said was, let him love children, because I already had a son. I said, let him love children and let him love you. You, Yahuwah. That was it. I didn't even pray about how I wanted him to look or anything. I mean, of course, everybody has like certain things we're attracted to, like I'm attracted to, very tall guys because I myself am a tall person. I love blue eyes. I prefer blue eyes over brown eyes. These are just little things that I'm attracted to. But it didn't matter to me. I'm like, yeah, whoever you have for me, I trust you. I trust you're going to have the right person for me, Did I have certain wants and desires? Sure. But I didn't pray about those things, because I trust that whoever Yah had for me was sufficient enough. So it didn't matter to me what job he had. It didn't matter to me how much money he was making. It didn't matter to me his looks. None of that mattered to me. All that mattered to me was that he was a believer, and that he loves Yah, and that he loves children, because I already had a child. That was it. That's all that mattered to me. Because I was understanding that these things do not define my husband. His looks do not define him. What he does as a career does not define him. None of those things define him. What kind of car he drives does not define him. I mean, and I was understanding this, and I needed to understand that about myself as well. I trust Yah. I trust that He will always provide enough, and that we will have enough regardless. Again, I've seen families that go full-time in a ministry and they are provided for. We have to step out of this world and be set apart. We truly, truly do. And, Yah has shown me so much. He has shown me so much through so many different things that I wish I could share now in this podcast. And I did do that with some of the episodes I had published before, and they disappeared. And I just was like, okay, it's not time to share these things yet. But there will be a time where I am going to share testimonies of a lot of what Yah has done for me, the way that He has spoken to me and shown me things, even the way that He revealed my husband to me, everything. I mean, I can't wait to share these things. I can't wait to testify of Yah's goodness and His faithfulness and how He does work through us when we are obedient to Him. And listen, I am less than perfect. I am a sinner. Again, like I said earlier, I have broken almost every commandment, not to mention I didn't follow the Torah beforehand, and I mean, I'm not perfect, and I'm still learning every day. But I can't wait to share the testimonies of the things that Yah has done in my life. I can't wait to do that. This podcast was all about marriage and family, all about the knowledge and wisdom that Yah gave to me. Praise Yah, out of his mercy and grace. And I was able to share that. And one day I want to share my personal testimonies. But yeah, I just wanted to share that about idolatry, and I wanted to make this the last word of the podcast because, even though, again, this podcast was all about marriage and family, but even with that, even with everything that I've had to say in regards to it, I want to say this. Be careful not to put your marriage or family above Yahuwah. Do not idolize your marriage. Do not idolize your husband. Or your wife. Do not put them on this pedestal. Don't put that pressure on them. You know, a lot of couples, some of their issues is they have like these expectations with their spouses that they can't fill because only Yah can fill it. And so what that does is it causes a lot of strain and issues on that spouse. It causes issues in the marriage because the spouse can't fulfill what you're wanting them to fulfill, and then now you're upset because it's unfulfilled, you know? Because our spouses are not perfect either. You know, they're just like you and me. They're going to have flaws. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to have issues. And I think that's another problem too, is a lot of people are like sitting around waiting for the perfect spouse to appear. And it's like, even though Yah is ordaining you with this person, but this person is far from perfect, just like you. You know, and that's another thing of the whole comparison thing, is we can't compare our marriages to other marriages. We can't compare our spouses with other spouses. I talked about this in the beginning of my podcast. I was like, you know, unfortunately, a lot of women compare their husbands to other women's husbands, other men. And men compare the wives to other women. You can't do that. It's just not a good thing to do. Or we have these expectations created in our minds. And when our spouses fail to meet those expectations, we become mad at them, and it's not their fault. That we've created these unrealistic expectations of them. For some of you, that's why you're still waiting, because Yah needs to work on those things in you. Because He knows that if He brings you your spouse now, you're going to put unrealistic expectations on him or her, or maybe there's some healing that needs to be done. That if, you know, I talked about this before, there are some things that you need to heal before you step in your marriage, and there will be some things that will heal while you're in your marriage. Your spouse will help you with those things. But for some, there are things that Yah knows that you need to work on these things beforehand. Or He knows that if He brings you that spouse, or if you get pregnant and you have, you know, you're carrying that baby, you're going to make idols out of those things. And that's why He hasn't brought it to you yet. That's why you haven't stepped in that marriage yet. That's why you haven't gotten pregnant yet. That's why you haven't stepped into that ministry yet, because either you're not ready, or He knows you're going to idolize these things. Remember, whatever comes from Yah, it's not to give to us so that we could turn around and sin with it or completely screw it up, you know, which He knows we make mistakes. But there's a set time for everything. And when it's things of Yahuwah, such as a marriage, you know, having children, a ministry, things like that, there's a set time for it, and you have to be ready for it. So allow Yah to work on you. Allow Him, pray, ask Him to help you see anything that you're not aware of, or, heal yourself to where you're at the point that you don't need to rely on your spouse or having children or having a ministry to define who you are. Because for those that feel the way, myself included, I was this way, those are insecurities that need to be healed. If you're finding you're not enough, and the only way you feel that you can find your worth is through being somebody's spouse, or being somebody's parent, or, you know, having a career, or, you know, driving a certain car, or having a certain amount of money, right? Or having this ministry to just, you know, flaunt it around, as to say, you're not ready for these things. Because those things don't define you. Those things are not where your worth comes from. Your worth is who you are in the Messiah. And we need to put Him first every single day. That needs to be our foundation. That's another thing. If your foundation is anything other than Yah, if He gives you this marriage, if He gives you this family, if He gives you this ministry or this career or this whatever that it is, and you're building it on the wrong foundation, what's going to happen to all of that? It's all going to fall apart. So that's another thing that you really have. If you're somebody that you feel like you've been in delay, like these things aren't happening for you, they're not coming, first off, remember His timing is different from ours. The next thing is look at your heart posture. What are your motives, right? Why do you want to be married? Why do you want to have children? Why do you want a ministry? Why do you want to take part in it? Why do you want this career? Your answer should be, I want this marriage because I want to glorify Yahuwah with it, and I want to help other people to exemplify what a godly marriage is. Or I want to serve my husband, or I want to serve my wife. I want these children because I want to raise them up in the way they should go. Like it says in Proverbs, they are arrows. They are, a quiver full of children. I want to raise them up to be who they're supposed to be, whatever will and purpose that Yah has for them, right? I want this ministry because I want to serve Yah and I want to serve others. I want to join this career because I could help people, or I could, do the work of Yah through this career. If your answer is anything other than what I've mentioned, it's the wrong intentions. You know what I mean? I had to realize that. Yes, we get lonely. Yes, we have feelings. Yes, we have emotions. But remember, we need to walk in spirit and truth, not in our emotions, not in our feelings. Yes, they're lovely things. It's lovely to be married. It's lovely to have a spouse. It's lovely to have children. It's lovely to have a career that you like and you're helping people. It's lovely to be a part of a ministry and a fellowship. But again, is it to glorify Yah? Like when he gives you these things, are you going to give these things back to him by glorifying him with them? Or is it for your own personal gain or reasons or feelings? Is it selfishness? You know what I mean? Again, there's nothing wrong with desiring and wanting to be married or wanting to have children. Yah programmed us to want to have these things. That's his plan for us, for most of us anyways. Not everybody's called to marriage. Not everybody's called to have children. Not everybody's called to serve in a particular ministry. Not everybody's called to go into a career. But for those that are, he gave you those desires and created you with that purpose in mind for a reason. But if you're going to take it and use it for anything other than what you're supposed to use it for, he's not going to give it to you yet. You got to be ready for it. It's like this, for those of us that are parents, if you have a 3-year-old, would you give them something that is way beyond like what they can comprehend to use? Like they're 3 years old, but you wouldn't gift them like a bike that's meant for a teenager, right? Because they can't use it. They can't ride it. They can't mount it. They can't do, like you wouldn't give your child of a certain age something that they couldn't comprehend or use because they're not ready. They're not old enough. They're not mature enough. They don't understand how to use it. It's the same thing. Yah's not going to give us these things when we can't comprehend how we're supposed to use it, what we're supposed to do with it, and all these kinds of things, right? We're not ready. And I know sometimes it's like, oh, I really need this now. I really want this now. Like I had many nights where I was like, yeah, where's my husband? Like I need my husband. I'm tired of being alone. And all these things, or I want to, do ministry. Like I knew he was calling me to ministry, and this was like 3 or 4 years before he gave me this podcast. And I was like, I want to do ministry. And I was looking all over the place to get involved because I just wanted to get involved. And when I would find stuff, it only lasted like a few months. And I'm like, yeah, I don't understand. I want to serve you. I want to serve others. Why is this taking so long? Like I used to get so frustrated and I used to cry. I'm like, I don't understand why these things are taking so long. And now I understand. I wasn't ready for them yet. There were still things that he needed to do within me to get me ready for these things. And he has been so faithful in doing that. It's been incredible. Like, I now understand looking back. I really do. And let me tell you something, the waiting is hard. And I think it's that cycle where when we grow weary of waiting, we can fall into sin, because then we take things in our own hands, or we begin to idolize things, or we just, we do things that we're not supposed to do. And I know this to be true because I've lived it many a times. I've fallen into the cycle. And I have repented so many times. I'm like, yeah, please forgive me. Please forgive me. I just got weary. I was tired of waiting. I'm lonely. I'm this and that, and this was all like quite a few years ago. And he's shown me so much, and I've grown so much since then because I allowed him to work on me. You have to get rid of that pride and humble yourself before Yah and ask him to show you whatever that needs to be shown and understood, so that you can get to that point in Yah's timing to obtain these things that he's given you a desire for, or whatever your purpose is in life. But to go and do things in your own time, in your own way, to go and marry the next person you meet because you're tired of waiting, you're lonely, to, have children even though maybe it's not the time to do so, just because, you want that experience, it's selfish, to go to school and then, have a career that was not meant for you just because you feel it's the only way that you're going to survive, or it's the only thing that makes you look good, is also not a good enough reason. And it shows where your relationship with Yah is at. You need to work on your relationship with Yah. That should be your primary focus, is your relationship with Yah. Ask yourself today, whoever listens to this episode, ask yourself, where is my relationship with Yahuwah? How solid is it? How close am I to Him? And if He does give me these things, whatever it is that He's calling me to, how can I glorify Him with those things? Am I actually in the right career choice? Am I with the right person? Am I waiting patiently? Am I being long-suffering? Or am I being so impatient that it's causing me to do things or choose things out of His timing and out of His plan for my life? Am I idolizing these things? Have these become idols in my life? Has TV become an idol in my life? Has money become an idol in my life? Has wanting to get married or has my spouse become an idol in my life? Has my children or wanting to have children become an idol in my life? Is this job an idol in my life? Is food an idol? I can go on and on. Really ask yourself this tonight. Really pray, seek Yah in prayer and ask Him. Ask Him if you are idolizing anything. Ask Him if you're holding on to anything that you shouldn't be. That's not even what He has for you. Ask Him to remove those things and help to realign you back with Him, and help give you the strength and whatever you need for however long it's going to take. And that when He does bring these things into your life, ask Him how to manage them and how to give them back and how to glorify Him with those things so that they never become idols. Because He can bless you. He can bless you with a financial blessing and that becomes an idol. He can bless you with a marriage and that marriage becomes an idol. He can bless you with a baby or 2 or 3 and they become an idol. He can bless you with a chance to lead a ministry and that can become an idol. A lot of people, I hate to say this, but it's true. They are blessed. They receive what they've been praying for, and then what do? They put Yah on the back burner. And they move right along. They're like, okay, I got what I want, got what I need. All right, thanks. Talk to you in a few months or down the road or whenever I next need something. No. And can you imagine how that makes Yah feel? Imagine being used. Imagine being used by someone you love. How much that hurts. After you've given them love, you've helped them, you've done whatever you have. And then on top of that, you love them, right? And then you've come to find out that they were just using you to get what they needed or wanted, and then now they're no longer talking to you, or it's a very hurtful thing, and that's what Yah goes through every single time these things happen. So just, something to really pray about, really think about, really reflect on. This is how I want to end the podcast. I just feel this was the right word. It's something I've been thinking a lot about as well, including with this, podcast ministry, social media, everything. My whole life. I've just been doing a lot of reflecting on my entire life, what's getting ready to happen, what's to come. And it really brought me back around to idolatry. And I realized how much I actually did that in my past. And it's really breaking one of the commandments, So I just would encourage all of you to do the same thing. Just pray about it, reflect, and just put Yah first. Work on your relationship with Him no matter where you're at in life. No matter if you've already married and have a family, you have a ministry, or you have a career. Put Him first. Take time, carve out time to study His Word, to be in prayer, and to serve in whatever way that He's calling you to serve. These are the most important things. Be set apart. No matter how crazy it looks to other people, no matter what, be set apart for Him. Glorify Him with whatever He chooses to bless you with. And don't forget to thank Him. And keep Him first always in your life. Love Him with everything you have, because He loves you more than you can ever comprehend. Hallelujah. All right, that's it, brothers and sisters. Thank you so much for listening. I love you all so much. Please keep in touch with me. And I appreciate all the prayers. I really, really do. Thank you all so much for your support. Love you all. Shalom.